So we're here where Bulma had already picked him up and all that. They had gone through like their first adventure and they stay the night at that place where Bulma takes off her panties and all that. The
Well,
next
Goku
day,
takes off Bulma's panties.
yeah, of course. The next day, he goes out to train and like lift rocks and stuff and he finds Turtle. And it's very Turtle's a very interesting character, I would say. And the other thing is I would say about my analysis is I'm probably not going to I'll reference some things about Eastern mythology, but I just don't know that. I don't know enough specifics to to point to things. Um but it doesn't matter because my analysis of Dragon Ball doesn't revolve around pointing at things. It's not a sign, it's a symbol. Anyways, so Turtle is first of all lost. So that's something that Brock brought to my attention when we streamed it is that sea turtles actually don't get lost in the real world. So we that's one thing we can keep in the back of our heads. But also Turtle is coincidentally the same voice actor as Kami, right? Who is God in Dragon Ball at least. And the third point about it is his relationship with Roshi, which we'll get into, because he seems to be the voice of God, more or less, or especially with how he deals with Roshi's corruption and immorality.
Well,
And so,
also the turtle being named Kame.
oh yeah, he's also yeah. There we go. So there's a lot to point to this being a divine interaction between the two. And so he
Well, yeah,
asks,
Roshi just owns many divine things like the Kintoon, that's a divine entity. Um, the big fan.
Mm-hmm.
the
Uh,
banjo fan, yeah.
so so
Well, he
that
threw
definitely
that one
makes
out
sense.
though.
Yeah, yeah.
Goku had to return that as the hero does.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that he owns Turtle. Like that's the difference between those objects that he owns, like the spinning guy too that he just calls on or whenever, and Turtle. Like
Yeah, owning
Turtle,
things actually as a hermit, that's not Roshi's MO.
yeah, it's actually anti Roshi, right? And so,
Yeah,
but
Turtle's more like his friend, I'd say.
Hmm. He's a piece of him, so to speak, in
yeah,
the
that's what I
same
was
way
gonna
that
say.
we're gonna get to that soon, but
He
Yeah,
is a
his
piece of
voice of reason, like Jiminy Cricket.
exactly.
and exactly what is Jiminy Cricket JC? What is that supposed to be?
His consciousness.
Hmm. And so
Yeah, JC, Jesus Christ.
the the thing with Turtle is that he always points out when Roshi is being corrupted and not following down the path that he should. And so it
Yeah,
gives
yeah.
us this intonation that like he is the part of the universe that's trying to get Roshi to act more appropriately. And even still, I mean, Roshi doesn't do things that are I mean, he does some bad things, but it's all because Bulma asked for it. We'll get there. Um,
Season one is such a good
it's
story.
so
Like
good. Yeah,
as
I know.
soon as you start talking about it, it's like, oh man, and this leads into this, and this.
Yeah,
Ah,
it's super referential on itself, which is amazing. Because what I was going to say is that Turtle is an extrapolation of uh, Roshi in a more spiritual way than the extrapolations we'll see of two other characters that come in season one that also have animal counterparts that also are involved with their own being. So our analysis says that Puar and Oolong,
other than Goku.
other than Goku, but yeah, Goku doesn't actually because Goku has the tail, right?
Yeah,
He is already integrated that part.
yeah.
And so he doesn't need an externalization like that. And so, but we do see Puar and Oolong that, I mean, you can argue if they even exist, I would say, because
Well, let's go chronologically. If we're gonna talk about that, are we recording right now?
we are recording, we're not
Okay,
live.
that's fine. So one thing I want to say about Turtle, right? So Turtle, Turtle shows up. It's immediately after the first incident of the Bulma's panties thing, right? So So the day after they stay
I would really
in
say
the
third incident, but yeah, go ahead. I mean the
yeah,
main incident, sure,
yeah.
but
What's the
like
primary thing I would say that happens as a result of it? Because essentially they stay in this house and all that stuff happens where essentially like Goku Bulma sees that Goku has a tail. Goku takes off Bulma's panties and realizes that she's different, and she doesn't know that she's missing her panties at this point in time. And which is funny because if you take the show very literally, you're like, well, that just is it's a gag. It doesn't make any sense
she
that
would
she would
obviously
travel.
know, but
Yeah, she would know.
if the panties mean something else, go ahead, bro.
Well,
Right.
it also implies that she's promiscuous, so maybe she really doesn't know the difference between having them on and off.
But she isn't.
So
She
it's a
hasn't had a
joke.
boyfriend
It's a
yet.
joke even further. Yeah,
She's
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to be promiscuous, and we kind of see that she's tried to use the panties already whenever she's like, "Oh, you can, you can touch my butt or you can look at my butt or whatever," and Goku's like, "I don't want to touch her smelly butt." She's already tried to use the panties as a symbol of her trying to use her feminine sexuality to get what she wants. So she is
Yeah,
being
yeah.
promiscuous already in the story. Um,
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
but she doesn't
and then
actually know what that
that's just another
means.
yeah,
deep cut joke.
Yeah, she has it's not just a joke because she has a corrupted way of looking at the relationship of men and women, obviously, because the first thing we hear her say is that she wants to wish for a boyfriend, right?
well, not
Yeah.
just a boyfriend, the world's greatest
Oh yeah,
boyfriend,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly. And so she has a corrupted way of looking at men and women. Goku has no intonation of men and women at all in the beginning of the series, and we get to see in the first season how he discovers the duality of masculine and feminine. That's basically what the whole first season is about.
Hmm.
Which is why I was saying earlier that I really don't think you can compare Goku and Wukong in that way because like there's nothing that Wukong goes through that's like that. But back to what I was saying, since she has that corrupted way of looking at it, uh, but she lacks the actual experience of it. Like later on, when we get to the bunny, boss bunny or whatever his name is,
Yeah,
um, she realizes more. Like she loses some of her innocence along the way there because that encounter really shows her what the promiscuity will lead to if she propagates it. And what is it? You'll be devoured by life.
yeah. Turn
Yeah,
yourself into something to be consumed whenever you do that.
yeah.
Um, so but anyway, the reason that I'm saying all of that is because on the road, right, on the path that they're walking, then they encounter the sea turtle who claims to have lost his way home, which is something the sea turtles don't do, and asks for help. And that's where Goku and Bulma disagree. Goku says, I'm just going to help because it's the right thing to do. Bulma says, well, this isn't going to help me get my boyfriend, so I don't want to do it. And so Goku's like, whatever, throws him on his back and starts walking with him. Now, all references to the turtle hermit aside, right? Because here's Goku walking with the turtle on his back. Like we were saying, Kame the turtle operates for Roshi like the voice of God, like a voice of a conscience. And so here's this conscience calling Goku to do the right thing for the sake of it, for no reward necessarily, and Bulma not heeding that conscience, right? And so as they're walking, trying to, you know, go on their way, Goku is determined to help Kame, and they reach a juncture where a bandit beast is essentially tells Goku to give up the turtle, and he'll let them go. And of course, Bulma says, "Yeah, give up the turtle. That way, I can get what I want." And that's fundamentally the setup of why Bulma is going to run into all the trouble she does for the rest of the season. Is that she cannot heed that conscience. She wants to throw away her conscience that tells her that she doesn't deserve to have the world's greatest boyfriend. Right? She wants her wish. She wants to take for herself that way. And so of course Goku is pure. He doesn't have a selfish position in any of this, and so he fights the beast actually in a way that makes perfect sense, which is he uses. It's the first time we see him use it. He uses his rock paper scissors technique on him, which is essentially beating
Yes.
him with play.
Yeah,
And so
Love
he,
that's play. Yeah,
that is my favorite move.
it's a
oh, it's
great
The
move.
awesome,
the
and it's great that he
Jonko
pulls his
pen
back
or
out against
Jonko
Yamcha for
pen.
the same reason, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's because
Oh.
neither of these have mastered the art of play, let's say, and that's something that Goku has in spades. And it's a game, right? Rock paper scissors is a game,
Well,
and
play is something you do for the sake of itself, and that's what Goku's doing right now with Turtle, is that he's doing the right thing for the sake of doing it. He's not doing it for his own selfish goals. So that's the encounter with the Beastman here is a microcosm of the conflict that Bulma is not able to rise to, I guess.
right. And so when we put it in those terms, it's not just like, oh, he Goku punched him. It's nothing like that. It really shows something deeper, and uh that's what I would say about that. Let's go on
But yeah,
to
but it is martial arts, but it's using martial
it's
arts
the
as a vehicle
vehicle.
to
Yes, it's the
communicate
vehicle.
that reciprocal play thing that Bulma doesn't get because she's being selfish.
Pause it for a second. So in the manga, in this scene right here, um, there's a Tory bot on a tree, and he says, "This ain't Penguin Village."
Excellent reference, dude. Yeah, yeah. I think in two, one of the parts that people like don't really like about um the Red Ribbon Army arc with Arale and all that, we are in our analysis, it fits really well. It's actually
It's
kind
pretty
of
funny.
amazing. Yeah, it's kind of amazing.
Well, it's specifically like, what is the purpose of a Raleigh other than, like, let's assume it's not just filler.
And that's
It's
what
like,
we try to,
what's
yeah.
the purpose of a Raleigh? And it's like, well, she's there to beat Blue.
Yeah. Well, we're off tangent.
We're
There we
way
go.
off of
Way
that.
off tangent.
And also to reinforce to Goku that there's always people stronger.
Well, yeah. Well, it's not just people are stronger. It's
Essentially to
there
enforce
is a
his
spirit that he has not yet adopted that he could adopt that would make him a better being. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah. Well, a Raleigh, it's almost like she carries herself
Because she's not
lighter.
even a fighter. She's
Yeah.
like
yeah.
that's not the point of her. But
Well,
her
at that point in the
spirit.
story, too, Goku has taken on malice into himself,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
and Arale doesn't seem to have any malice. She just plays with
He
Blue,
is
right?
not
It's
yet.
like,
He is not
Yeah,
fighting.
but in that whole scene, like
or is that before we hit that
Goku
point?
is just like super shocked about like how strong she is. He's like, wow, I have to train.
It reminds me, though, it's a good call out right here because it does remind me of how, like, you've got this the interaction there is very similar to like Goku and the Beastman, where like Goku's just playing with the Beastman and he's in a different power level completely, and Arale does the same thing to Blue. Arale is just playing that whole time, but also destroying Blue.
Yeah, exactly. And his powers don't work on her, and we can get into that. But yeah, I mean, the Tory bot tangent. I think we should get back to talking about Turtle. Good. I mean, definitely good reference there, because always love to know where the Tory bots show up. I think I've seen the image of him hanging off the palm tree on this one too.
I love how
Yeah,
Tory
I
Bots
can
get fucked.
share the screen if you want.
Is it that one, or is there a Tory bot at the beginning of Z when they go to Roshi's Island?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And the thing I like about the manga is that it literally tells you that it's a Dr. Slump reference.
Dr. Slump exists in this world. It's canon as far as I can tell. Arale showed up in Super too, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, they bring Turtle back, all that. And so really what I wanted to talk about with the way and why I brought up this first is because when Goku hoists Turtle on his back and does it for the sake of good, capital G good, more or less, he is following the way. He doesn't know, and this is something he says earlier, he doesn't know what an ocean is, right? He's going into the unknown. He has one foot in the unknown, but he also has the guiding principle upon himself. He's walking with God at that point, and so he has one foot also in the white paisley of the Tao, and so he's really walking the way. And this is the real first action we see Goku take besides saving the damsel, which, I mean, we already see him do that in the very first episode. He basically iterates that he's above that already. And so here we see him walking with God and following the way such that he gains the Keen Tune. But That's what we're getting at with the way, I think. But we were talking about Roshi as well. I forgot how we got on this topic.
Well, it's all a perfect setup so we can talk about the way, because Roshi comes back here on the back of Kame, and it's like, hey, let me bring you your reward,
Oh
right?
yeah, and then he gets to walk the way. That's right. Oh man, we haven't even touched Pilaf. I haven't even said a single thing to him.
Yeah, in the manga, the Pilaf stuff, like they were not introduced yet.
Oh really?
Yeah, no, the anime puts set them up like way earlier.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, Goku fights them last episode, so yeah, that makes sense. So I guess that's just complete filler. How do you eat it?
Yeah, so
How do you eat it?
this part this part is really cool because are we gonna talk about Roshi now or
Yeah, we can. Let me go back to Roshi's pivotal part here.
yeah that shot is awesome
Yeah, I want that on
of
my
him
wall.
Now,
on the
let's ask you this, Xavier. Why does he have letters on his shirt?
I was trying to see if I could see if they make words. I'm actually not sure why does he have letters on his shirt.
You want to tell him, Brock? I need to go get some water real quick.
Sure. So Roshi has letters on his shirt because he, as a masculine spiritual figure for Goku, is sort of the arbiter of the logos. He teaches Goku the way in which he can create habitable order in the world. And in any mythological story, words they are symbolic of that. So I'll give you a couple of examples. You ever played Skyrim?
No.
So in Skyrim, you have to go around and find these dragon word walls, and you learn words of the dragon language, which make you more powerful so that you can confront dragons. Which is what you have to do in Dragon Ball. You have to gather the Dragon Balls, and then you have to be able to speak your wish to the dragon in order to be able to get it. The words actually really matter, and they matter even more whenever we get to the higher order with like Purunga. Have you ever played uh the newest Zelda open world game, Tears of the Kingdom?
No.
So in Tears of the Kingdom, every time you get a shrine done, specifically in Tears of the Kingdom, not Breath of the Wild, all these ancient letters swirl around you and go up and down your arm because Rauru in Tears of the Kingdom is also the spiritual father that uses the logos to help Link create order back out of the chaos that's befallen the kingdom. Have you watched Harry Potter?
Are you gonna be
So,
surprised by my answer?
magic words, right? All of those things to say, all of the techniques that they use throughout Dragon Ball that are magical have a magic word attached to it, right?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
the Kamehameha is the first example, and we see later on in this season whenever that Goku can learn the Kamehameha wave instantaneously. Like he doesn't have to be taught it, and he learns it from Roshi. Roshi's the first person that uses any techniques like that. So it's because the logos is associated with language. Like in the Bible, it's like God gave Adam language to name all the animals, right?
Yeah.
And that is what that is referring to, I believe, in the Bible as well. Is that it's sort of this gift of language? Is the language is like the first tool that mankind ever really had. Even before we developed the ability to cover ourselves with animal skins, the words are the very first thing. The naming, being able to name things and having that using words are also magical, right? If you can imagine being like a caveman, any change you ever made in the world you had to do physically. You had to touch it, move it, push it, throw something at it. But the advent of language made it so that you could change the world without touching something, because words can change the world. You can tell somebody else to do something, you can give information that way, which changes what's going to happen. And so
Conversely, Sauron, like, you can use language to impose your will on the world, but
hence the
that's
words
aside the
around the ring,
yeah,
right?
that's exactly it. Yeah.
Um,
Which is why it's the ultimate evil. That's why Sauron is the big bad. That's why Saruman's nothing compared to him. But anyways, We
But
digress.
that's I believe that's why Roshi is depicted for the very first time with the letters all over his shirt,
Oh
because
yeah,
that is what he is for Goku. He is that spiritual father that represents the Logos coming down and giving him this divine pattern, which is in this case the Kinto Un, right?
Yeah. So there actually is a few cool things about Roshi. On top of what you guys said, and this just goes to show like how good how good Toriyama is at referencing so many things at once.
for
Um.
sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So just to bring back up the Eastern references, the fact that Roshi has a perversion interest, um that is a play on the character that he's based on, which is the Monkey King's Taoist teacher, which he was an old man who
Was
practiced
lecherous.
abstinence. So
Oh
he
yeah.
so Toriyama's doing a whole flip on it where he is the Taoist teacher, but he's perverted.
Well,
So
Toriyama's flips actually are super poignant because
Yeah.
yeah,
Roshi being a pervert is a result of his path. Like, why does he wear sunglasses? Like, all right,
And the
getting ahead
sunglasses
of
do
myself.
matter. It's
I
so
mean, yeah,
crazy that the sunglasses
everything
matter.
matters. So right, the
yeah,
sunglasses, right? Why does he wear the sunglasses? You can't see his gaze, but he can see at you, right? That's one of the aspects of the sunglasses, right? And he gazes in like the first thing he does here with Bulma. And the reason why, like, yeah, he's perverted, but it serves the story because he, as the spiritual father, can see, and this is what happens when there is a spirit to which one should subordinate themselves. It points out the flaws in your own being, right? And so when we see Roshi's spirit here interact with Bulma's, let's get to it. Wait, we already missed it. So he points out her flaws. And what is Bulma's flaw? She's lost her panties in the physical, right? But symbolically, she's lost female modesty. And as the representative of the feminine in this mythological story, it means all women have lost their modesty in this universe that we're in at the moment. And it'll translate later to what we see how Oolong deals with things because that's her conceptualization of women. Well, my son is now crying, so I'm gonna have to go get him. But
I'm gonna tag in because
tag in.
there's a cool thing that you can do when you're watching the anime. Pay attention to the moments whenever there's one of those little gleams on the corner of Roshi's sunglasses. There'll be like a little shimmer. A lot of anime employs that too. Sorry, give me a second. I gotta clear my throat. A lot of anime employs this, but they use it in Dragon Ball in a way that Roshi uses his flaws as a test for other people, meaning because he's separated himself from the physical world, he can act in ways that other people shouldn't act, and he can test them or tempt them to act in that way without actually being morally culpable in the same way because he's a spirit. He's disembodied, literally disembodied in the sense that he's a hermit out on an island in the middle of the ocean and doesn't interfere with the affairs of the world. So there was a shot of it right there, of the little flash going across the sunglasses. So what he does here, he I want to just talk through what he does. So he comes up, he thanks them, he says, he asks Turtle, "Did they help you?" Turtle basically says, "He helped me. She didn't want to help me." It's like, okay. So he gives Goku the Kinto Un. I believe, yeah. So the Kinto Un he busts it out here and says, "Here, you can have this, Goku." And they do their little joke where, "Oh, Goku can ride it because he's pure of heart, and Bulma can't ride it because she's not pure of heart." It's like, okay, well, the reason that I was even saying that we can talk about this topic to start with is the Kinto Un. In my interpretation of it, is that it is a manifestation of the way.
Oh, I was
Of,
getting there. Yeah.
Well, and also notice before he even tries to give the Kintoon, he tries to give the
yeah, the Phoenix.
immortal Phoenix,
Yeah.
and the Phoenix is very important because it's just another representation of the message of Dragon Ball.
Yeah, it's this death rebirth. This is how
Yeah,
you live forever, is by living the right way.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and so he gives Goku the way and tells him that he can use it to go anywhere and soar through the clouds. And I think that what
And
this
it's
really means is,
important that it's called the Kintoon because that is specifically the somersault move that Sun Wukong did.
yeah,
And
and Sun Wukong does the same thing. He leaps
Toriyama
clouds.
Toriyama for his Japanese audience, he's trying to make it so clear that Goku is a spin on Wukong by literally giving him his items like the Nyoibo.
True, but
Those are the same names
I will
true.
say that's
as
not why he does it, but he does make it clear that he's doing that for the Japanese audience
yeah.
so that they can understand the mythological level that he's on, I think.
Well, I would say too, because the way they function is a little bit different than how it functions in Journey to the
Oh,
West.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because the
Yeah,
Noibo
if it was
actually,
the same, they would be OP.
well, yeah, well, not. I mean, the Noibo though is not. It doesn't have the same meaning in Dragon Ball that does Journey to the West. Just using an example, the connection between Korin's Tower and the Lookout.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which I don't want to get too
No,
into the
that's
Noibo
huge.
thing because the
Yeah, yeah.
Kinto Un so the Kinto Un is a representation of Goku's ability to move in the same spaces that Sun Wukong does. But I don't think that Sun Wukong's ability to leap clouds isn't necessarily a symbol of his ability to walk the way, because Sun Wukong has to learn that a different way in that story.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that the Kinto-Un does represent that in the Dragon Ball story for a lot of different reasons. One of them, um, the Kinto-Un gets destroyed in Dragon Ball. Like there's multiple times where the whole dynamic of even where it comes from, how Goku has it, and how he interfaces with it gets brought up. So, for instance, whenever he's chasing after the demons that kill Krillin, um, he gets the Kinto-Un destroyed by one of them, I believe, right? It's one of them uses a breath attack that destroys it and grounds him, and he's stranded in the wilderness. And then that's when he meets Yajirobe. But it's symbolic of him losing his way after having Krillin get killed. So all of that sort of the way and the way that Goku interfaces with it and his ability to effortlessly walk the way, um, it's brought up later. And also, in
Yeah.
the last training arc for Goku where he's told by Roshi, "Hey, you need to go walk across the earth without Kinto." It's basically taking away the way and making him have to actually interface in a different way. But the thing is, you can't give that to Bulma because Bulma is not pure of heart, meaning her intuition is leading her astray, whereas Goku's intuition is leading him the right way. Um, and so, what does Roshi do? But say, okay, well, for you, I have a test. And the test is this: show me that you have the virtue that you claim to have for the wish that you're going to use this ball for, right? She says, I want that Dragon Ball. Roshi knows you want this Dragon Ball so you can wish for the greatest boyfriend ever. So he says, show me your virtue. Show me that you are acting in a virtuous way with your feminine spirit. And she says, of course I'm virtuous. Let me show you my virtue, my virtuous nature. And hikes up her muumuu she's wearing. And of course, that's only when she realizes that she no longer has those panties, which are symbolic of the virtue that she has denigrated by trying to use that for her own personal benefit. And so Goku has removed those from her unconsciously and she didn't know it. Also, Goku removing them from her unconsciously, I think, is a symbol of the fact that she has actually come into contact with someone who is effortlessly morally good, and it's shaken her idea of what it means to be good, even though she hasn't confronted it for herself yet. So this is her learning through her interfacing with Roshi that she is not good in the way that she thinks she is. But because she's been made aware of this fact, she's been given the Dragon Ball, meaning Roshi showed her, hey, you're not as virtuous as you think you are. Now take this Dragon Ball and do what you need to with it,
Well,
right?
that's the wisdom she gets, right, from realizing that
Which is a
she's
way that
like
it's
that.
similar to Journey to the West, because that's what the scrolls are, or that wisdom of what's lacking, right?
Yeah.
But this is the way that it's done in this story, right? And so, but that's just the very first step of Bulma's panties being like a motif that goes through this whole season. They're not just a sight gag that's like, oh, panties again, panties again, panties again, because the very next thing that happens in the story after this is Oolong.
And what is the ultimate thing that happens in the story is Oolong wishes for
Yeah.
Wishes for the panties to come
Panties.
back.
But what
Yeah,
does
yeah.
that do? Because Oolong is, as our analysis would say, is the masculinized externalization of Bulma. And so it's the way that she views
Well,
men.
Oolong in that moment when he makes that wish, he is able to do something seemingly selfish for a selfless reason. So he is essentially practicing Budo in that very wish, which is utterly hilarious.
Right, and it's also the resolution of Bulma's character because he's an extension of her. The reason I mean, I say that like it's a foregone conclusion, and a lot of people don't really see it that way. So
I've
we can
never
kind of
heard
step into the
anyone
next
say
scene.
it before.
But realistically, the very next thing that happens in the story, the next episode, is they come across the village where Oolong is terrorizing them by taking all their little girls, right? And he's able to seduce Bulma, and then Bulma, of course, has to come to terms with the fact that it's like, oh, he's just a little communist pig who's kidnapping little girls and making himself a slave to them by doing so because he has no like backbone of his own. Um, but Bulma insists on bringing Oolong on their journey and says, he seems useful, right? Um, and so they do. They go, okay, we're going to bring Oolong with us, but Oolong's not down for it. He doesn't want to stick around. So there's this thing where Bulma is like, uh, they come across Oolong and he's a shapeshifter and he can be dishonest and he can be deceptive and all these different things. But fundamentally, what he is a feckless masculine spirit that's not fully realized. And it's in that sense that it's the counterpart to Bulma in the exact same way that Puar is the counterpart to Yamcha. Um, and there's a lot of other things that happen with it. So, for instance, um, whenever Bulma tries to bully Oolong into staying, he tries to run away. How does she get him to come back when he turns into a fish and tries to swim away? Oh, with a pair of her panties on a fishing rod. So she brings him back that way. Then he wants to leave again. So she shames him with his name by making him eat a piece of candy, ostensibly, that makes it so that he has to run to the bathroom if she says pig, 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 or PPP, depending on which translation you're looking at. Um, and she does that, then she loses all the capsules from her father, and they get stranded in the desert where they find Yamcha, who also has a feminized counterpart to himself that has been extracted. And the way that you know for sure that they're associated is whenever finally Oolong and Puar meet. Puar says, oh, I recognize him. I knew him from kindergarten, but he got kicked out for stealing the teacher's panties, right?
Yeah.
So the panties come back again with Oolong on that, where it's like Oolong got kicked out of kindergarten for stealing the teacher's panties is basically metaphorical, symbolic, however you want to interpret it, of the fact that Bulma's expulsion from her illusions of her own innocence resulted in this event, which was essentially Oolong being expelled from quote unquote kindergarten for stealing the panties. And
It's because it's the first thing they have to learn is how men and women interact. That's kindergarten. That's what, you know, that's what season one's about.
I think in the recording we did last time, we hit on even more than we'd even talked about, which was kind of coming to that realization that um, Oolong does the wrong thing. Like he treats the feminine spirit incorrectly in the same way that Puar treats the masculine spirit incorrectly. So like
Right.
Puar,
Because how does Poir
um,
interact with Yamcha in the beginning? Do you remember, Xavier?
Uh, ask that again.
How does Poir interact with Yamcha in the very first time we see them?
Let's see. Uh, So the very first time Yamcha and Puar. Oh, Puar is helping him uh be a thief.
That's
He
it.
is
We're
he is
you're
looking through a telescope.
hmm hmm But she's
Lord
helping him.
Lord Yamcha, game. We've got game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. But that's the thing. Women are supposed to make men conscious of their flaws and immoralities, and Poir is not doing that. So we
Yeah,
see that Poir and Oolong are both not functioning as they should, let's say. And it's actually why they unfortunately fall off as the story goes on, because they're after this symbolic use, they become less useful, let's say.
Yeah, they serve their purpose mainly through the first season, and they're around for a lot of things that happen after that. But their point is to show, ultimately, to show the flaws in Bulma and Yamcha, in that they earn humility through this journey, so that they recognize each other instead of being selfish.
yeah. Which I
Um,
think something similar might happen in Dragon Ball Daima, and I'm super excited for that.
yeah,
Uh,
I'll wait and see. I
with the new
can't muster
demon
up the excitement
characters.
about Daima.
Really?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I'm one of the people that's just disappointed in Super in general, so I'm like, well, yeah, we'll see. I feel like it might be one of those things where it's like Toriyama wrote this, but they're just like he's gonna be rolling in his grave by the time they get to the end of it.
Well, we can. I mean, the further we get into our analysis, we can discuss the reasons why we don't like Super, for example.
Yeah.
For the most,
Well, there's
there's some.
reasons why I don't like Super either. I
Yeah,
think I think it has cool ideas, but the execution is just not it.
Well, it
fair.
also retreads a lot of stuff from Dragon Ball, actually.
Yeah,
But
Um,
anyway, the
yeah,
point being, the reason I'm saying all of this about about specifically Oolong being a piece of Bulma is that everything that he does for the first season is specifically about Bulma. Like Bulma being put into the bunny suit and all the stuff that happens with that, them having to go around in his camper and midnight callers, um, everything that Oolong does to start with is in relationship to Bulma. Bulma losing her father's capsules is a result of her trying to bully Oolong. It's not explicitly because of that, but that's exactly when it happens.
and there's no, they never
Does it?
explain it. There's no other
Yeah.
explanation, but the way it's framed, it's like when that old Russian filmmaker was like, he can make you feel three different emotions by just pairing two sets of shots together with a guy looking and then like a bowl of fruit, and people are like, oh, he's hungry, uh things like that, or like showing the guy and then showing a woman, it's like, oh, he's in love. It's the context in which it appears, and the capsules disappear like literally right after she does that.
Yeah. Another thing to
He
point out
eats the
too.
pill, and then
Mm,
he tries to run away, and then she checks her capsules and they're gone.
yeah, it's literally as quick as that. And like we can get into what the capsules are, right? They're an inheritance from her father, which allows her to. It's sort of a manifestation of her potential, right? So the first time she uses her capsule, she creates a home. She uses the capsules to
Super
create a
feminine
boat.
power, but yeah.
Yeah, it is a feminine superpower inherited by her father, who I never thought I would have any analysis of Bulma's father whatsoever. But whenever it happened in the show, I was like, oh my god, what?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's really insane how good this show is.
But the thing is that this is what the story is about. It's about Bulma uh not respecting what's been given to her, not respecting her own femininity, not respecting her father, and losing everything because of it, and sort of how to put it back, how to put the pieces back together. And that's like also I think why Pilaf isn't introduced as early in the manga then,
It makes
because
sense.
what Pilaf is fundamentally doing at the very end of the story kind of it is indicative of that the trap that they find themselves in, and why, for instance, like they can't get out of the castle, but Oolong and Puar can shapeshift and get out of the castle to save them, and all that.
Well,
It's all tied
also,
in.
Oolong, the pig demon that he's based off of, is was a pervert that never achieved enlightenment, which is again Toriyama doing another spin because Oolong basically does what the pig demon couldn't
Yes,
at the very end.
yes. Oh, I'm nodding my head like Jack Nicholson right now. It's
Yeah, it's
amazing.
fundamentally, and that's what Toriyama does a lot, is he
Yeah,
finds the resolution rather than just saying like, "Oh, this is like a problem and here's just a demon." It's like,
Here's Piggy too. It's like, no, Oolong's his own guy.
I mean,
yeah,
even with Piccolo and Vegeta later on, you see what Toriyama does is he finds the resolution. He finds the way to integrate the things that they represent towards a bigger picture.
yeah.
But even like what Bulma does, where she gives Oolong the pill, and then anytime she says like piggy piggy or PPP, he has to run to the bathroom. There's this analog in Dragon Ball of having to reveal your nakedness to reveal yourself. Like Goku doesn't care. He'll just be naked like he is in this scene. But it shames Oolong to have to run to the bathroom. And so what she's doing is she's making him self-conscious by controlling him with
Her
his name,
femininity, right? Yeah.
which is
Did you guys see Bulma fishing for fish oolong with panties because he tried
yeah,
to go get
exactly.
away? Yeah,
And it works. It works. Because she knows Oolong. The wild thing is that she knows Oolong so well, but she's just met him. And it lends more credence to that fact. Like, it's because
Yeah,
that he is the extrapolation of what she thinks masculinity is.
but that's also a continuation of her trying to use the panties for her own, uh, for her own
Yeah,
benefit.
it's still
And
doing
and the
that
funny
too.
thing is, like, what Oolong is doing right here, turning into a fish to swim down underwater to disappear, is the natural occurrence. That he is a manifestation of her unconscious, right? If you take Jungian psychology, for instance, he would be a manifestation of her disintegrated animus. Just to say that he wants to go back into the unconscious. He wants to turn into a fish to swim down into the unconscious again, and she won't let him because she wants to use him because she thinks that she can keep on using her panties, quote unquote, for her own benefit and make him do what she wants, hence her bullying him and everything. But because she
Mm.
does that, she loses the gift from her father, which is all the capsules that would get them out of the desert. So then they're stuck there, right? Now make with the panties. Yeah.
which is just establishing more that karma is a very important thing in Dragon Ball.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. I love that because it's not mysterious in Dragon Ball. It's very explicit. Toriyama's like, this is
Yeah,
what you're
yeah.
doing to your karma. Like, this is how not to get bad karma.
So that's a good kind of a good stopping place right now for the recording. Um, my wife should be home in about 10 minutes. I've been with my son, so I've been not talking as much because he's here on the bed, like right next to me. But I want to hear some from you, Xavier. I know we've been talking a lot.
Um, what I will say is, seeing this in the manga with double page is so cool. Uh, just because you realize that the whole double page is a whole art piece on its own. Um,
Oh, we're Berserk fans, so like we could definitely get behind that.
yeah, and just the what I love that Toriyama is able to do is that he's able to frame all of these cool references and philosophy and different ideas that he's trying to push in the story, all in the form of a gag manga.
Right, it's very digestible. It's a
That's
great
why
vehicle.
I love reading it in the manga more than the anime because it the pacing is a lot quicker and you see most things are framed in jokes
Ah, but you
and
missed some filler.
yeah, true,
Some of the filler is actually good.
and the early filler is good, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about super filler. I don't know about that.
Yeah, no, I think after like the Saiyan arc, the filler gets wonky.
Bulma's big day on Namek. Most worthless episode.
Yeah.
That's really where Dragon Ball Z gets its criticism of like, oh, they're just charging up, nothing happens. Like that episode, literally, that's what happens. And
Yeah,
Bulma.
it's crazy how little useless filler there is in the entirety of Dragon Ball proper.
Yeah, Dragon Ball proper for sure.
You really don't have a lot of wasted time. Like,
Shikacho.
Also,
Yeah.
one more thing about Bulma fishing for oolong is right when he gets back up in the boat and he turns back into a pig. Goku threatens to eat him.
Well, Goku's on a voracious spree in this. He wanted to eat the Kintone. He didn't want to eat turtle though. Just to say that.
True.
Probably.
But what do you think about our analysis? Have you heard anything like this before? Do you think it's worthwhile?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting to hear all the things that everyone finds in Dragon Ball because it just makes you realize uh on how many levels that a writer can make a reference to a different thing. And um I actually have a series coming up soon called rings within rings where I talk about the connection of uh uh the things that Dragon Ball and Star Wars have in common in terms of their philosophy and stuff like that. Um, and it's just like sort of the same thing. Like you keep like peeling the layers back and back, and there's just so much to find in it. Um, and that's honestly what has gotten
Wait,
my interest.
Star Wars 2 is explicitly inspired by the same intuitions that Toriyama has put into Dragon Ball. I have
Yeah,
or actually I don't have it. Owl has it. I think I got it for him as a gift, a copy of The Hero with a Thousand Faces.
Oh yeah, I have it.
And it has a back of the book quote from George Lucas saying that it was a huge inspiration for him to write Star Wars. And The Hero with a Thousand Faces is a book by Campbell about the commonality of these
The
heroic
monomyth.
archetype myths, or the monomyth. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, for instance, like with Star Wars, the number one thing to look at if you're going to like peel back the layers and how it's going to have analogs to Dragon Ball is the archetype of the blind father. I think is like the way to go. So if you're really interested in that and those commonalities, the hero with a thousand faces will definitely give you some insight.
yeah,
Well, I think that's a good place to stop the recording. We can just hang out for a minute, take a break, all that.